Today, we're going to talk about a major problem keeping you from retiring and from having a successful retirement. One of the questions I get most often when I meet with someone for the first time is some version of, am I okay to retire? And truthfully, I rarely meet with someone who couldn't retire, or at least at some point in their life. People with far less money than you retire every day. And because of the safety net we have for retirees, most people will be okay. But of course, the real question isn't, can you retire? The question is, what kind of retirement do you want to have? And this leads directly into the problem I want to talk about today. But first, my name is Kevin Lum. I'm a certified financial planner, and this channel is dedicated to helping 1 million people retire without worry. So, like I said, most people can afford to retire at some point in their life. The real issue is, what type of retirement do you want to live? And this leads into the bigger issue that I want to discuss today. To paraphrase Socrates, the unexamined financial life is a financial life not worth living, or something like that. What Socrates actually said is that the unexamined life is not worth living. And what he meant is that a life without introspection, without self reflection, without understanding your values is a life where you simply drift along. No purpose and no direction. And somehow a channel about money and retirement just turned into Philosophy 101. But here's the thing, I think the same principle applies to your money and to retirement. Without reflection, your money lacks purpose. And money is just a tool. It's a means to an end. It is up to you to direct it towards a life that actually means something to you, to direct it towards a retirement that actually means something to you. Now, I'm not overly concerned with people who splurge a little here and there. What really bothers me is when people spend money on things they don't care about, simply because they haven't taken the time to reflect on where their money is going. And that lack of awareness has the ability to pull you further and further from the goals that matter to you. Things like being able to retire early or travel in retirement. And so, what do we do about this? How do we avoid drifting towards retirement or through retirement, or worse, ending up somewhere we never intended to go? And I think there are 4 key habits that, if we begin to develop, will make this much less likely. The first habit is this: stop guessing. Whether you're working or retired, if you can't confidently answer the question, how much money do I spend in a month? That's a problem. Most people, research shows, underestimate their spending by 20 to 30%, especially on things like travel and holidays and gifts and home projects. And so here's how this played out. Pre-retirement, this looks like you spend more money than you intend to, and you save less money than you intend to. I often will meet with people and I'll ask them, how much do you earn? And they'll say, I earn $120,000 a year. And then I'll say, how much do you spend? And they'll say, I don't know, I probably spend about $5,000 a month, which means there's should be about 60,000 left over. You got to take some out for taxes. But when I look at their budget or I look at their savings, they're not saving any money. It turns out they're probably spending a lot more money than they know, and they're saving less than they know. This also presents a problem when you try to plan for retirement, because when you're planning for retirement, you're trying to decide, do I have enough to retire? And if you don't know how much you're spending, it makes it incredibly hard to plan for your future retirement. And then post-retirement, this is an issue because if you don't know how much you're spending, you're not really sure how you're doing in relationship to your plan. So stop guessing, figure out what you really spend. There are a number of online tools to help you with this. My favorite, I've talked about this on this channel in the past, but it's Monarch Money. I have a link that I think will give you a free trial and a little extra time of the trial. If you sign up, I get a free month of the service. I offered this before. So many people signed up. I think I'll be 73 before I have to pay for it again. So if you want to try it out, I hope the link still works for Monarch Money. But I'll put a QR code here, or I'll put the link in the description below. But it is a great way to help you track what you actually spend. And this examining of your spending habits is a perfect segue into the next habit you want to develop. And that's, stop letting lifestyle creep drain your financial freedom. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying money. But when lifestyle creep happens without a plan, it quietly eats away at your financial freedom. I see this all the time. You're fine living on $50,000 a year, and then you get a raise and you start making $100,000 a year. And somehow you're still not saving any more money before. Why? Because lifestyle creep eats up every additional dollar you earn. Well, that and Uncle Sam. But it's sneaky. It's not usually the big purchases, it's the little upgrades. You go from $2 Chuck at Trader Joe's. I don't know if it's still $2, but you go from $2 Chuck at Trader Joe's to the $10 bottle of wine. You're really splurging. And then before long, you find yourself at a restaurant asking for the sommelier and you're spending $80 on a bottle of wine. The same thing happens with houses and cars and schools and vacations. And none of that is inherently bad if it's intentional, if you are spending money on the things you actually value. The problem is that many people wake up one day and they realize that they're spending money on things that don't align with their values or their goals or the things that they want to accomplish with their life. To kind of put a personal picture around this topic, a few years ago, after my wife and I had been married for about 10 years, and we'd earned decent money during that time period when we were first married. And when we first started out, we'd earned almost nothing. And then as kind of time went on, we began to earn a bit more. And we added up everything that we'd earned over the first 10 years of our marriage. And we figured out we'd earned about $1.5 million, which is quite a bit of money, right? If you take $150,000 a year times 10 years, you get 1.5 million. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a significant amount of money. And we looked at each other and we said, we really don't have anything to show for all of this money that we've earned. And we had things we wanted to do with our lives, right? We had goals that we wanted to accomplish, but what we'd done is we'd allowed lifestyle creep to slip in. And we were spending money on things that we didn't really value. And so if this resonates with you and you want to fix it, you need to get clear on what you value and direct your money towards the life you actually want to live, not the one that happens to you by default. If you don't get clear on what you value and direct your money towards those ends, you'll end up spending a fortune on things that you don't truly care about. And it will take you further and further away from the things that you do. So just to recap, first, figure out where your money is going. And then second, pay attention to lifestyle creep. Make sure that the things you're spending money on are the things you actually want to be spending money on, and don't let lifestyle creep begin to take over all of your additional money. The third thing you want to do is pay attention to the small things. When I used to work with younger clients on budgeting, I noticed something interesting. The problem wasn't usually the big expenses. It wasn't rent or the car payment. It was a million little things that quietly added up, often much to the client's surprise. The number of people who would argue with me and tell me they did not spend as much money as the data showed they spent still surprises me to some extent. I remember one particular story, our software, Right Capital, you can hook your accounts up, your credit cards and your bank accounts up, and then it will consolidate and help you figure out how much you spend. It's not a perfect service, which is why I recommend people typically use Monarch instead. But I used to use this service, and so I could kind of see how much people spent. And I was meeting with a young couple, and I told them that they spent about $10,000 a month. And they got kind of incredulous with me, and they said, "We do not spend $10,000 a month." I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, I'm just telling you what the data shows." And so anyway, the meeting ends, and about a week later, I get an email back from them where they essentially apologize. So like, we started going over our spending. We realized you're right. We do spend about $10,000 a month. We just had no idea we were spending that much. And so what happens is all these little things begin to add up, right? It's streaming services that we forget we have, or Uber Eats orders that add up faster than we realize, or spontaneous dinners where we intended to get one glass of wine and then we end up getting three and the bill comes and it's $200. And none of these things are a problem on their own. And I'm not here to tell you to cancel Netflix or never order takeout. But if those habits are happening without intention, they can quietly erode your ability to spend on things that actually matter. And here's the thing, this doesn't magically stop once you retire. If anything, it gets riskier because your margin for error shrinks. So here's my recommendation. Do a spending audit. This is related to the first thing we talked about, but do a spending audit. Tools like Monarch can consolidate your account, give you a clear idea of where your money is, but also help you to see the little areas in your budget where money is leaking. So it has a page with all your reoccurring expenses. I guarantee you that many of you, if you looked at a consolidated view of where your money is going, you'd be surprised about all these little reoccurring expenses that are going out each month that you'd forgotten about. So ask yourself, does my spending align with my priorities? And am I paying for things that are really adding to my life? And the goal isn't to cut every corner. It's to make sure your dollars are flowing towards what matters most. Because in my experience, like I said, it's not the big one-time mistakes or big one-time expenses. They're not even mistakes, just expenses that can derail your plan. It's a slow drip. It's the small repeated expenses, the little leaks in the bucket that eventually can pull you off course from your goals. The first thing you want to do is figure out what you spend. The next thing you want to do is pay attention to lifestyle creep. The third thing you want to do is pay attention to those small expenses that add up. And then the fourth habit I want to talk about, the last habit I want to talk about, and maybe the most important, is pay yourself first. I'm going to borrow a line from Andy Stanley here. He says this. He says, it's your direction, not your intention, that determines your destination. It's not about what you hope will happen with your money, right? What you kind of intend to do with your money. Like, I intend to save more money. I intend to spend less. It's about what you actually do with your money consistently. Here's where a lot of people get stuck. They constantly tell themselves that we're going to save more someday. If there's more money left over at the end of the month, we'll save it. Or if I get a raise, we'll save it. Or after we do whatever the thing is, then I'll begin to save money. But as we all know, life happens. The money gets spent and the savings never materializes. And so what you want to do is you want to pay yourself first. Paying yourself first flips the script. It's the habit of making your financial future the first bill you pay, not the last bill. It means automating your contributions to your 401k and your IRA and your HSA and your brokerage account. I have an entire video on which order you should invest your money. But by automating your savings, you are investing in your future, your goals first. Before your paycheck ever hits your account, your checking account, it invests in the things that you say you value. It's a way of saying, I'm going to make sure my future is funded before I let my lifestyle expand. Funded the things you actually care about, then you can let your lifestyle expand as much as you want. The other thing, and this is kind of an aside, but also you want to fund first the things you say you care about. And so, for example, in the religious tradition that I'm a part of, we believe in the principles of tithing. And so if that is you, if you believe in tithing or giving money to charity or whatever the thing is that you want to direct your money towards besides just funding your future, make that money that you spend at the first of the month. Make sure you fund those values before you allow lifestyle creep to take over. And this principle doesn't just stop when you retire. Even in retirement, automating withdrawals and managing your cash flow intentionally makes the rest of these habits easier to follow. Because at the end of the day, your habits and systems, not your good intentions, are what gets you to the retirement you actually want. So figure out what you need to save. How much money do you need to save to have the retirement that you want to have? And then decide, where do you want your money to go? And then automate that process. Make sure that gets funded first before you spend the rest of your money. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. If you're looking for a financial advisor, I would be honored if you would consider working with me. You can schedule a free strategy session using the link in the bio or by scanning this QR code right here. And if you're thinking seriously about retirement, here's a video about 5 numbers you need to know. You can watch it now.